Testing. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay. All right. There's no event without some technical difficulties, so I think we started off pretty well with that. Just real quick about this podcast for those who know, those who may not know, and for Swamiji as well. We call it the philosophy of now, and the idea is that Swamiji and many other, wise people and thought leaders who have come on the show have so much wisdom to give, especially Swamiji with so many videos and lectures that we've all been a part of or seen. But at the same time, we want to understand as seekers, as sadhakas, as they say, right, in Sanskrit, how we can apply these learnings, how we can apply these, and in the inner hurdles, the outer hurdles that we all experience, how do we apply them, and how do we walk our life and understand that? And so, getting the life mantra, getting the philosophy of how that individual, how Swamiji stays present, is what we call the philosophy of now. So we can all learn and kind of gain those wisdoms to go back into the world. And at the same time, I want to reiterate for all of you that this is, I'm only a representative here. We like to believe that the seat that I'm sitting in right now is the same seat that any of you are sitting in. And the luxury that we have today is that we have an audience, and so we will give you the opportunity to also speak and ask him your questions. Before we begin, I know we had thought about this and I had asked Swamiji if he was open to it. I know we all came from New York City, the commotion and the craziness and the heat. It's always nice to be grounded and understand, the environment that we're in and kind of be focused and ready for it. So in order to get to that, it'd be great if Swamiji can, for maybe 5 minutes or so, give us a quick guided practice if you're open to it, a guided meditation.
Or maybe 10?
Or maybe 10. Okay, we can do it.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Oh, peace, peace, peace. In this short guided meditation, I'll encourage all of us to stay with ourselves, just listen to the voice of the speaker. When we are comfortable, can close our eyes and sitting straight, not rigid, but not slumped either. Relaxed, listening to the voice of the speaker. Relaxed. We gently bring our attention to the breath at the nostrils. The breath at the nostrils. Feel the sensation of the in-breath, out-breath. Don't try to control the breath. If it's a long breath, recognize it's a long breath. If it's a short breath, then it's a short breath. Just attend to the sensation at the nostrils. Gentle feeling of breathing in, breathing out. The feeling of the breath at the nostrils. When the breath is coming in, I note it is coming in breath. When the breath flows out, I note it is out breath. Relaxed. lower body relaxed from the waist downwards. The upper body from the waist up to the neck relaxed. Both legs, both arms relaxed. Relax the shoulders, the neck muscles, the back of the neck. Relax the face muscles, face relaxed. Head relaxed. Attending to the breath at the nostrils. If it is in breath, I notice it is in breath. If it is out breath, I notice it is out breath. Whole body relaxed. Whole body relaxed. Become aware of the sounds in this room. Relaxed, breathing normally. Listen to the sounds. Sounds in the room, sounds outside the room. Don't think about the sounds, just listen. Relaxed, neutral, just listening. Listen when sounds arise, play around, disappear. Sounds arise and present themselves to awareness, persist in awareness and disappear back into awareness, into consciousness. Relaxed, breathing normally. Notice how different sounds arise and disappear. But the awareness which is aware of these sounds, which is hearing the sounds, that awareness is the same. One sound comes and goes. Another sound comes and goes. Some sounds are in the background. They're all appearing to one awareness. One consciousness, one awareness. Sounds are many, coming and going. Awareness is one. It does not come and go, it's there. And notice it is the same awareness to which the touch, the feeling of heat and cold, same awareness which listens to the sounds, also senses the temperature, heat, cold, the feeling of the chair beneath us, the feeling of the body relaxed, so the feeling of touch. Same awareness which heard sounds also feels the touch. And it is the same awareness when our eyes are open. To it, it presented colors and shapes. We see, same awareness. And taste, and smell. In fact, all of our sensory experiences, they arise and persist and fade away in the same awareness. And when I do actions, when I walk, when I talk, when I grasp things with my hands, when I drive, I type stuff, look at my phone, all the actions, I'm aware. I'm aware. The same awareness which lights up all my sensory experiences, lights up all my actions too, reveals all my actions, enables all my actions. And the same awareness lights up my inner life also. My thoughts, feelings, good or bad. Understanding, lack of understanding, remembering, memory, failure to remember, all of these are experienced by the same awareness. The one awareness which sees and hears and smells and tastes and touches, which does all actions, walking and talking and grasping. It is the same awareness internally revealing thoughts, emotions and feelings, ideas, memories. The same awareness also reveals the gaps in experience. When I'm not seeing anything, still I'm aware. If I do not think between two thoughts, there is awareness which reveals the absence of thoughts. In fact, the presence and absence of all sensory experiences, the presence and absence of all actions when I'm walking, talking, and when I'm still sitting quietly. Right now I'm sitting quietly, still aware. Note that I'm aware. When I think, when I feel very intensely, I'm aware. My feelings are neutral. I'm still aware. It's the same awareness. In all my experiences, sensory and action and thoughts and feelings and memories, awareness is constant. In fact, it is this awareness, this consciousness, which makes possible all experience. This constant, ever-present awareness, this inner light, this I am. I'm aware of being aware. Quite apart from the things which we are aware of, the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, quite apart from the actions that we do, quite apart from the thoughts and feelings, ideas and memories, desires, likes and dislikes, quite apart from all of these things which we are aware of. And the absence of those things, we are aware of the absence also. I am the awareness itself, always there. What I am aware of keeps changing, but the awareness itself, the bare awareness itself, does not change. It is this one light of all lights. This awareness shining, the world shines for me. By the light of this awareness, the world is lit up for me. I am this awareness. I am awareness. I am consciousness. I am light. It is the first fact of our lives and the last. And in between, all our days and nights, months and years and decades of our life, lit up by the same awareness, which I am. Relaxed, breathing normally. Soon we shall chant Om together a few times, 3 times. Then I will invite us to open our eyes when we are comfortable. But I want us to notice one thing. This awareness which I am right now, this light of all my experiences. When I open my eyes and transition from the meditation exercise to the conversation, to life itself, this awareness continues, effortlessly, ever present. Let us chant Om 3 times together. Relaxed, breathing normally. Gently open eyes, looking down at your lap. Don't look up immediately. As we look up at our own time, please notice the awareness which we noticed in meditation. It continues now. It's the same awareness. We've just opened our eyes, that's all. Colors and shapes are appearing to us. People are appearing to us. Objects are appearing to us. And if you move your body, actions of your body are appearing to you. Awareness is just the same. This erasing of the boundary between meditation and life, this is the essence of all successful spiritual practice. Spiritual practice and life should not remain separate. Spiritual practice is like the gym you go to, but you build up your muscles and you do yoga, do all sorts of different classes, and then you transition into life. The life should be better. It should not be compartmentalized. So as we go into life, we notice the same awareness is still there. And I am that awareness. What was the purpose of this exercise? To shift from this feeling of I am a body with awareness, which we all feel. Nobody denies that they are aware. To I am awareness with a body. I am awareness with a mind. I'm using the words awareness, consciousness interchangeably. It's something we all know. What it is incredibly difficult to define and study. But what it is we are all aware of also. We are aware that we are aware. That is common to everybody.
Thank you so much for this. I think we all feel a lot better, a lot calmer. I guess from my end, I would also just like to, what I said earlier regarding the fact that I'd like us all to feel kind of in union in feeling as if we're students today and learning, that typically we like to start with a prayer to kind of start that mindset, and this guided practice definitely represented that. I would just like to do a prayer that kind of symbolizes the same thing that we're all here learning and hoping to grow together in this conversation. So, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviriyam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wonderful. So as I said earlier, that I'd like us to have a conversation here today that is speaking to things that Swamiji, maybe you haven't necessarily touched on in depth, but you might have, but something that we all are struggling with, or we're all trying to understand, but we're not getting there, because at the end of the day, the spiritual journey is one that we have to take alone, as is the journey of life and death in general. So to kind of kick that off, we want to understand your sort of core, and your inspiration, your philosophy to start off. And so my first question to you is, if you can name 2 to 3 individuals, philosophers, thinkers in the East or in the West that have inspired you and helped you in your own, youth, or even today continue to inspire you. Can you think of maybe 2 to 3 people that come to mind?
Oh, that's very easy. Straight away it is Sri Ramakrishna and Ma Sharada and Swami Vivekananda. They all lived in the late 19th century and early 20th centuries. And they are all very central figures in this, let's say, the spiritual renaissance in Hinduism in India especially, but across the world also. And the reason we are here today, I am here today, is because of Swami Vivekananda, who brought this Vedanta, the philosophy which I practice and teach. He brought it from India to the West, all the way back in 1893, the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago.
Right.
And after which he came and started the Vedanta Society where I am right now in 1894, which is the first Indian ashram in the West actually, 1894 going all the way back. So those three, straight up, Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, Swami Vivekananda, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe give a follow-up to that. Can you give us two more, maybe from the West?
From the West?
Yeah.
I would say philosophers like Wittgenstein, and that's the most modern one.
Okay.
But yes, someone like this. I like the Greek Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, for example. If you go to the ancients,
Right.
and in between, I would say philosophers like Kant and Berkeley, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
What about them? Really?
So the idea that through reason one can penetrate to the deepest realities of life and use it to transform our lives. To understand the secret of this universe. What is this universe? What are we? What's human destiny? What's the best way to live? So these big questions.
Yeah.
So these are the big questions in philosophy. And always, of course, more than the philosophers, I would say, whether it's East or West, it's a great spiritual master, whether it's the Buddha or Sri Krishna or Jesus. These are the sources of spiritual life for all of us. For me also, if you want top few names, I would name them, but I think that would be common to all of humanity.
Yeah. Wonderful. I want to move, you spoke about reason and logic, and I want to talk about today's times a lot, especially when it comes to the youth of today, what we might call millennials, Gen Z, and I think there's ones coming up, they're not youth yet, but Gen Alpha, I think that's what they call it now. But I think we kind of, if I were to observe as part of that community, a very reason-based age group where we're really looking into the logic of things. When it comes to religion and faith, we question the reality and how legitimate they actually are. And statistically speaking, the millennials as well as Gen Z increasingly becoming atheist and agnostic as a generation. What is Vedant's answer to that? Or how do we package or approach Vedanta and that philosophy in a way that is palatable to that generation, that is becoming, maybe more reason-based, but also moving away in that process of becoming scientific, moving away from faith and things that might be more metaphysical?
Not reason-based.
Okay. Okay.
Let's not kill ourselves. Also not so different from earlier generations as we might like to think. Somebody asked me a question, so this speaks to what I'm trying to say. A gentleman asked me that in Vedanta or spiritual path, we say the whole project is to overcome suffering. And he said, my 13-year-old daughter said, but we take all the happiness that comes to us in life. Why not take the suffering too? And so I had no answer to her. She said, Dad, why are you trying to overcome suffering? If the goal is to overcome suffering, why are you trying to overcome suffering? And the gentleman said, I have no answer to that. What would you say to that? I would say she's 13. That's the answer. She hasn't seen suffering. And I hope and pray she does not see suffering.
Right, yeah.
So this pursuit of fulfillment, happiness, in the most broad term, and the effort to overcome pain and suffering is instinctive. These are ground zero. You can't ask, I'm in pain, and then I'm trying to overcome that pain or escape that pain. You can't ask why. No, that is the answer in itself. So we are all trying to do that. But as you said, there is a big movement in the last few decades and in this generation, but it's not peculiar to this generation or even to our times. It started centuries back with the growth of, with the split between religion and science, with the growth of independent inquiry, philosophies freed from the bounds of religion.
Right.
Yeah. And then the questioning of religious dogma, which is, you're seeing now, it is reaching a peak. Now, my answer is twofold. One is, it's not that people are losing interest in religion. They aren't. There's a huge new section called spiritual but not religious.
Right.
A lot of young people, if you ask them, we are interested in spirituality. It's just that they're not the kind of spirituality which we are getting from organized religion. Ken Wilber, he says, organized religion, if it has to appeal to young people today, has to do three things at least. First and foremost, stop fighting amongst yourselves. I'm right, you're wrong, everybody else is going to go to hell unless you follow my way or the highway. Stop that.
Right.
That doesn't appeal. Second, science. What is already mainstream science, what is already understood by mainstream reason and science, don't reject that just because your book says so or your ancient tradition says so. That is again highly unappealing. And third, values which are already accepted in secular society, in the first world at least. Don't go against it straight away. Okay. Just because you have been holding on to these values in your church, or in your community, or in your country for centuries or millennia. So these three things, stop fighting, update yourself, scientifically speaking, and values-wise, regarding race and gender and environment and things like that. Don't be contrary there. These three things are what's putting off people really. Otherwise, young people are very interested in spirituality. Second point I want to make is this predilection for reason. I will not believe without my intellect saying, yes, this is believable. It's really good for Vedanta. One of the things which Vedanta is very solid on is reasoning. So there is a spiritual approach which is belief-based. And which we know, the religions of the world in general are belief-based. That's why in the United States, for example, the word for religion is faith. Right. Which is foundational, belief, not reason, not questioning, not skepticism, but you start off with faith. Right. If you start off with skepticism, you won't get off the ground in faith. So that's one kind of spiritual quest. I'm not saying it's invalid, it is valid, but it's one kind, it's not the only kind. Right. There is another kind of spiritual quest, which is experience-based and reason-based. So, which appeals not to believe in certain things because I say so, because the book says so, because tradition says so. No, don't believe. Rather seek to understand from the very beginning. And seek to experience, not just believe in it. Vedanta is like that. So I think Vedanta is very well placed. That's why traditions like Buddhism, for example, which does not come with a lot of metaphysical baggage. It does, but that's not the way it's packaged in the United States. That's right. Yeah. But then, speaking for Buddhism, it doesn't ask you straight away to believe in God or an immortal soul, stuff like that. So it's more meditation-based and ethics-based, and that appeals to a large number of people. Right. Vedanta is very well placed there. Yeah.
Interesting. You spoke on the Buddhism and its comparison or sort of relationship with Vedanta, and I know one of your more recent books is related to that, the fullness and the emptiness of the two traditions and kind of their relationship, and you give a in-depth yet very palatable way for any individual to really understand the different traditions within Buddhism as well as Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta. Speaking on that though, you even mentioned right now that meditation as the key to really, and the different practices and ways of meditating to, according to the different traditions as well. When it comes to that fullness and that emptiness experience, what beyond the meditation, or alongside the meditation rather, should an individual be doing to experience that, or walk on that path of experiencing that?
Just look at the capacities we have. There's the capacity for meditation, definitely, which is focusing the mind on something which you are seeking. So that's meditation. But then there's a capacity for reason. We want to understand. We don't only just want to meditate, we want to understand. The capacity for reasoning, for inquiry. Then there is the capacity to love, to feel. So that's another dimension of our being. And finally, there's the capacity to do stuff, act.
Right.
So you have these 4 dimensions of the human being. To focus, attention, meditation, that's the mind. And to understand, inquire, reason, understand, question, that's the intellect. But then feel, love,
right.
That's the heart. And then actually do stuff in the world. That's the action part of it. And the spiritual practices in Vedanta are centered around these 4 powers. So there's a practice called Raja Yoga, a whole tradition of Vedanta. I mean, Vedanta, I have to be very careful here. Vedanta has a very technical term, a meaning in Hinduism.
Right.
But Vivekananda used Vedanta sometimes interchangeably for the wider spiritual traditions of India.
Mm-hmm.
Different schools, various practices. And he has reason to do so. One reason is Vedanta is basically the texts are the Upanishads, the Vedas, the spiritual philosophical teachings of the Vedas. And more or less all the orthodox streams of Hinduism flow from the Vedas, flow from especially the Upanishads. So in a very broad sense, not in a technical sense, because in a technical sense Vedanta is one school of Indian spirituality.
Right.
There are other schools.
Right.
So if I include yoga in Vedanta,
Mm-hmm.
people will say you're making a category mistake. But no, meditative practices are very much part of Vedanta. So meditative practices, Raja Yoga, Vivekananda called it Raja Yoga. Inquiry-based, self-inquiry-based practices, that is Jnana Yoga, the way of knowledge, the yoga of knowledge. Devotional practices, faith-based again, belief-based, faith-based, based on love. So Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of bhakti or devotion. And spiritualizing our action, Karma Yoga. Karma is action. And spiritualizing our action becomes Karma Yoga. So these are the various dimensions of spiritual practice in Vedanta. Inquiry, attention, love, action.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Kind of speaking on those paths, right? And I'm speaking again, I feel, of my viewpoint of today's society and what we see happening. You spoke on the multitude of paths. And within, Bhakti, Raj Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, you see the various multitudes of ways and means, especially in the subcontinent of India, how much over the course of thousands of years, you have so many different traditions and sub-traditions and traditions within traditions that have come about, right? And schools, Vedanta schools, and within the schools there are categories, right? There's so many paths to choose from. And then when we look at it in today's 2025 as a seeker, as a sadhak, you see that there are so many choices within that, right? And a lot of times that is because of the commercial and the consumer way that people package things, that even something like yoga, right? And I remember quite a few years ago when I had spoken to you about it, I was writing an article about yoga, and I had asked you, what's going on with, we have goat yoga, and we have naked yoga, we got hot yoga, what is going on with all of this? And you had told me very simply at that time that it's just, it's consumer capitalism, that's what's going on. So, you have that, you have the idea of, there's a lot of legitimate paths, whether that's you go into Tantra, you go into Kriya, you go into Raj Yoga, you go into Vaishnavism, and then sometimes you might also find things that are scamming you or might not be for you.
Yeah.
As simple as not being for you. As an individual, a beginner who's entering that, how do you know which path is for you? Because you do have a limited life.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Here we just go back to what I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
To put it briefly, the best practice, the most well-rounded, the most wholesome kind of set of practices would be have a knowledge-based practice, have a meditation-based practice, have a devotion-based practice, and a service-based. So these must be aspects of our spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
There must be philosophy in our spiritual life. There must be meditation in our spiritual life. There must be devotion, love in our spiritual life.
Right.
And there must be service in our spiritual life. What I'm saying here is, the specific paths and schools may be different. You may not even be Hindu, you may not be a follower of Vedanta, but you may be a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or spiritual but not religious,
Yeah.
SBNR.
Right.
Syncretic. It might be. But what I'm saying is, whatever we are, wherever we are, whatever school we belong to, whatever religion we belong to or do not belong to, if you're interested in spiritual life, just because the very constitution, the psychological constitution of the human being is like this, we must have a reason in our spiritual life, we must have meditation in our spiritual life, and love in our spiritual life, and some actual contribution in a service in our spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the answer.
Okay.
Have these elements. Now, if you say have meditation in your spiritual life, then comes the question, but there are so many schools of meditation. Well, knock yourself out. You have your own path. You see what works for you and you take it up. Follow it sincerely. There are a couple of things one must do. One is from our own side. These are, especially the ones which come out of the Indian subcontinent, which are parts of the ancient religions. These are very ancient traditions.
Yeah.
So they all have been around for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them, centuries if not millennia. And they have worked for thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of people across the millennia. So therefore, the point is to give it time. Now the danger of the market economy and the YouTube economy is everything is available all the time. And the problem there is, in one sense it's good, nothing is secret or hidden. But in one sense the problem is our minds tend to flicker and jump.
Mm-hmm.
And because these paths demand effort and sticking to it, which is not pleasant, the moment the going gets tough, the moment it begins to feel boring and unpleasant, the reaction is to jump.
Yes.
And now the jumping is available to us. Because there are other books, other teachers, other schools. Now, Sri Ramakrishna gave this beautiful parable of the man who was digging for water.
Yeah.
And he dug for water in a particular place, but digging for a well is hard work. So after some time he got exhausted, he began to doubt whether there's anything there. Somebody said, why don't you try there? And he said, okay, I'll try it there. He tried there and one more place, and you know what happened at the end of the day. He had dug 6, maybe 7 shallow holes, found water nowhere. If he had dug in the place where he had started, maybe at the end of the day he might have found water. So this is another aspect of to be careful about in modern spirituality. Wide variety of paths, and many of them are genuine, not all, but many of them are genuine. And they will all work for you, but almost all of them demand some amount of perseverance, some amount of sincerity and sticking to it. Sri Ramakrishna, he said, the particular path you take up is not all that important. But then he added, but you must take up one sincerely. You must take up something sincerely. Now, scamming. Is there any safeguard? Well, scamming is a big problem now, but it's an eternal problem also. So there are safeguards from ancient times. Just like anything else, common sense. People seem to have common sense when it comes to money or things of the world. When it comes to religion or spirituality, suddenly they become babies. Especially if you're enthusiasts.
Right.
They're ready to swallow and believe anything. Now, so Upanishads, for example, you go all the way back to the Vedas, 3,000-4,000 years, they give 3 guardrails.
Yeah.
They say the teacher, the tradition, and the teacher especially, Shrotriya, Akamahata, Brahmanishta. It's 3 Sanskrit words, ancient words. First of all, that person must be a master of a tradition. The teacher of the tradition you're entering into, is it at all a tradition? Ask, what are the texts your tradition is based on? It should be there and open and available. I should be able to look it up online or go to the New York Public Library, look at the text you're talking about, whichever language, whichever civilization, whichever time period. Nowadays it's all there. It shouldn't be all that hidden. At least the broad outlines. Sometimes there are esoteric texts which are not shared or taught publicly for good reason. But the general outline should be available. Should be available as a college course.
Right.
So there must be a tradition, and the person who's teaching me must be part of the tradition. You might say, it's a no-brainer. No. There are people who will say, I came up with it myself.
Right.
Nobody knows about it. This is utterly new, and people are swept away by this. No, be careful. As you said, we have one life. How do you know it's not a fly-by-night operator? You must have some guarantees that it is part of an ancient lineage. It's worked for thousands of people across time. So good, I'll try it. Second, Akamahata. The teacher and the tradition must not be out to make a quick buck out of you.
Right.
Important. It's in Manhattan. So making a quick buck out of somebody is not seen as a bad thing here. It's seen as a very bad thing in spirituality.
Right.
In spirituality, it says literally the word akamahata, that means should not be damaged by desire. Should not be polluted by desire.
Right.
And I have some other intention. I want something else out of you other than your own spiritual growth. Okay, you pay your church subscriptions. I mean, the church has to continue, the ashram has to continue. But too much of money and politics and power and fame, all seems to be very good right here, but these are red flags as far as spirituality is concerned.
Right.
Some of it may be there, but this is just a thing to keep in mind. Is this all about making a quick buck? Or is this person on a power trip? Is it a cult? This is the second thing. The third thing is, the teacher should be, a professional in the sense, literally the word Brahmanishta means centered in Brahman, centered in spiritual life. Should not be a part-timer.
Right.
So this is something, if it's really so high, if it's really so wonderful, it should absorb you. Like any art, any science, the top people are absorbed in that.
Right.
So these are some guardrails.
Interesting. When you speak about, you said the word abundance earlier regarding, this multitude of paths, as well as the options that are available, and
Yes.
the ability to just, as you gave Sri Ramakrishna's example on digging holes, which I'm sure a lot of us, I saw a lot of shaking heads where it's a reality that you definitely experience. And yet at the same time, I do see almost on the opposite spectrum also occurring. And that's almost, while you have the abundance of ideas and options in today's times, whether that be in, social media, whether that be at work, whether that be in terms of, you go to the mall and the abundance of items that you can get, or on Amazon, you can get it on the same day. There's an abundance even within the spiritual paths. But at the same time, I think there's the polarity that also happens. What I mean by that is, you can very easily become stuck in one way and become obsessed with the peripheral within a path. I think you kind of understand what I'm saying. In the example that kind of comes to mind, and I don't want to, I'd rather you give that example of Sri Ramakrishna's, the mango tree example that he gives. Of individuals going to a mango tree and never really picking out the tree except one individual who's, sitting under the tree is not the same as actually getting the mango itself.
Yeah, the way he put it was, you come here to eat the mangoes, don't spend your time counting the leaves.
Right, yeah. So I feel like that could very easily happen when you get stuck in one way. So how important is it for us to also expose ourselves to world ideas and even sometimes opposite things? If you are a Vedanti, is it important to also entertain the ideas of Jesus Christ or, an opposite tradition, or even atheism for the fact?
Yes. One way is to go back to the past, to see people who did not get swept away by the peripherals. The peripherals are fascinating for a reason. We have certain weakness within ourselves. If I do not sincerely want God, self-realization, nirvana, I want it, but not so much.
Right.
Now, when I plunge into spiritual life, in all seriousness, there are things which are fascinating. They're not the core, but they're fascinating. So, on the path of Vedanta, for example, the philosophy, the logic of it can be fascinating. You might spend years learning Sanskrit grammar. You might spend years, traditionally you would have to spend years learning textual interpretation, mimamsa, learning logic, nyaya. And those are so fascinating, but that logic is not spirituality. And so it's a part of spirituality. I remember in our monastery as a young monk, there were discussions with the head of our order, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who was at that time 97, 98 years old.
Wow.
And a tremendously powerful spiritual master. And other monks would ask questions, I would stand and listen. One day this discussion was there. He said, you don't need too much of philosophy or logic. Just enough to understand the Vedanta and then bring it into your lives. And somebody said, oh, but there's a joy in studying Nyaya, which is Indian logic.
Right.
And the Swami, the head, president, his reply still rings in my ears. He says, you can have that joy in playing chess too. It's an intellectual joy. It's a great joy in playing chess. Is that spiritual? Not necessarily. So you can learn logic, you can talk about scriptures, you can recite verses, you can win all arguments, you know the arguments pro and against. And is it still being spiritual? It may not be. It's being fascinated by the peripherals. In Vedanta, in the way of knowledge. But so also in the way of devotion. Puja, worship, ritual. There are people who love ritual. And then you see ritual without end. Puja keeps getting bigger and more elaborate, more flowers and more pictures and more mantras and more food and more. So it keeps expanding.
Okay.
Yes. On the path of action, in Karma Yoga, busyness is not spirituality. In Karma Yoga, you're doing good stuff. You have schools and hospitals and feeding the poor and hungry, taking care of people who need help. So you may be busy day and night, fundraising and constructing this building and running around, and all you are doing is good.
Right.
But we were told by the monks, we do so much social, like seva, service in India. But we were always warned that busyness is not spirituality. That's a peripheral. In the way of action, that's a peripheral. Unselfish service to humanity, knowing that the divinity is present there, that's the heart of Karma Yoga.
Right.
But the peripherals are sending out appeals for funds and sending out reminders and sending out thanks for funds and constructing buildings. You can spend a lifetime that way.
Right.
And you can achieve a lot, but not spirituality. So this is where we get stuck with the peripherals. How do you overcome that? One way is to look at the great spiritual masters. Look at the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Look at the life of Vivekananda, the life of the Buddha, of Jesus Christ, of the great Christian, the desert fathers who went out into the desert to pray and fast and in vigils, the great Buddhist masters. In all these religions, the saints, the enlightened ones, you will see they are the ones who did not get distracted either by the world or by the peripherals in religion. So that's one side of it. In fact, the ancient examples are very powerful. They found God, Sri Ramakrishna. He said, you have come to eat the mangoes, don't spend time counting the leaves. But if you see his own, the time of his own sadhana, spiritual practice, Swami Vivekananda says, I first thought he was a monomaniac.
Right.
There's only one thing, he would say, there's only one thing that I know, God, God and God. A later scholar, monk called Sri Ramakrishna called Sri Ramakrishna a glutton for God. A glutton for food or movies or whatever, a glutton for God. So that is a person who's laser focused.
Wow.
Yeah. And you see that not just in Sri Ramakrishna, you see that in the lives of anyone you would call a saint in any spiritual tradition.
Right.
So that helps you reading their lives and sort of downloading that attitude into, if I'm a spiritual seeker, I must have some of that.
Right.
Yeah. And the final point is what you said. Not just Advaita, why not Vaishnavism? Not just Vaishnavism, why not Christianity? Yes, this is a special advantage of our day. The world we live in, this was not possible 50 or 100 years ago. It was much more cloistered.
Right.
The walls were much higher up. Now these spiritual traditions are available to us. The spiritual heritage of humanity. And they are all ours. So you can be Hindu and you can explore Christian mysticism, you can explore Sufi music, you can explore Buddhist mindfulness. And the thing is, nobody is waiting for our permission to do so.
Right.
People are already doing it in the world. It's already a very rich syncretic culture. That's not bad. The only caution there would be, have a home tradition. I found that's useful. Otherwise, people tend to drift sometimes. Have a home tradition, explore widely. Again, Americanism, knock yourself out. You enrich yourself. Enrich yourself.
Yeah. I want to get to, I guess, a little more of the hurdles part of it as well, right? When someone is doing their sadhana, right? We talked about exploring. We talked about ideas and reason. We talked about the times that we're living. One of the things that I find myself doing is that, when you're on a path and you've read Vedanta, you've read, say the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita, or you've listened to Swamiji lectures, and you're like, oh, this makes sense. This totally makes sense. I'm on the path. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do my service. I'm going to do it. I'm going to worship my God. I'm going to meditate. Obviously, this is all real.
Yes.
And then what happens is life hits you.
Mm-hmm.
And I can speak for myself personally. I'm doing my sadhana, and then I came across an individual, a close family friend, who was suffering a lot. And it was to the extent where he was such a beautiful human being, and I was like, he's doing so much good. He's a devotee, and yet he's suffering. And God, if, whatever the universe is not letting him, just relax for a moment. And I remember after visiting him, I came back, when I was driving, the first thing I thought was, is God real? And so my point is, that sadhana can happen, but when life hits you, doubt. And, the idea of, is this even real, pops in. What is the practice or the way to overcome that?
Yeah. That's when sadhana becomes real. It's not yet real when things are smooth sailing. It's when life hits you. And after that, whether it is doubt or physical illness or a bad relationship, whatever it is, or a struggle in the world. So after that, if you still go back to your meditation mat in the morning and the evening and meditate in spite of that. After that, if you pray to God and you pray for the welfare of those who are suffering. After that, if you keep serving. After that, if you keep your Vedantic inquiry going, then that sadhana is real. It has found traction. It becomes real. If I give it up at that point, then nothing has been accomplished.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing, no problem. When the life hits you, then you are really making progress. One key practice, I'll mention here, utterly unpopular because it's Manhattan. It's exactly the opposite of what this place is about. But without it, no true spirituality ever was possible, will ever be possible. It's an unpopular word. It's called renunciation. Not becoming a monk. Even more serious than becoming a monk. It's that inner renunciation. Whether you wear a weird dress or not. I remember once I was driving along with a monk in another city, and on the pavement this person was going along dressed in this very weird color combination, and one of the monks said, "Look at that guy with the way he is dressed," and another one said, "So says the one who's wearing an orange bedsheet." Yeah, you don't have to actually formally become a monk, but the idea, this central idea is renunciation. So Vivekananda says renunciation is the turning point in spiritual life, where spiritual life becomes real. What renunciation? What does it actually mean? In Karma Yoga, the renunciation of selfishness. So it's an entirely inner shift. It's not a declared thing that from now on I'm going to be selfless. Facebook status has been changed. None of that. But earlier the whole goal was for I, me, myself. At most maybe my family. But now my goal is not for me. I am fine with whatever I get. I am here to be of help.
Right.
And that could be also be within common sense and reason. It could be within the family, it could be within the community, it could be within the organization which you do, or it could be something you take up an initiative yourself. But that shift from selfishness to selflessness, to the extent that we can, even a little bit, is very powerful.
Right.
Very powerful. Notice, almost every one of our problems, whatever you bring up, relationship problem, monetary problems, health problems, problems in society and community around us, almost all of them will go or be seen in a new light when you say, not I, me, myself, for others.
Yeah.
What can I do? Then it's no longer a problem. It might be an opportunity to help. If you can't do anything, pray for their welfare. Then the second renunciation, the renunciation of the bhakta, the devotee, the lover of God, where you renounce 100, 1,000 different desires in the world. My life is crowded with these desires. You can see it in my Amazon shopping cart. When I empty that into one almighty love of God, I'm quoting Vivekananda here. Instead of 100 desires flowing out into the world, I take all of that. It's the same power. It's the same power.
Right.
I can't crowd my life with 100 desires, material desires, desires for sensual pleasure, desires for entertainment. My life is crowded with that. And I say, I have endless love for God. You don't. It's the same desire, the same power, psychic power. That has to be pulled back and then into one almighty love of God. Becomes one love.
Yeah.
Many desires becomes one love. Collective. It's a very powerful love. Then third, meditation. The renunciation of a meditator. Why meditation is difficult? It's because of lack of renunciation. People never say that. But Krishna was asked by Arjuna, why is meditation so difficult? You're teaching me meditation, 6th chapter of the Gita. Krishna said, it's no doubt meditation is difficult, the mind is difficult to control. It's possible. By what? Two things he said. Abhyasa, Vairagya. Systematic practice, okay, we know that. And Vairagya, dispassion, renunciation. So look at the renunciation of the meditator. The eyes want to see. In meditation, I say that I don't want to see. Ears want to hear. I don't want to hear. The skin wants to touch. I don't want to touch anything. Taste. I don't want to taste. I smell. I don't want to smell. The tongue wants to speak. I will not speak. I will. The mind wants to think. I will not think except the thought which is for meditation. Maybe watching the breath or repeating a mantra. That's it. So it's a tremendous renunciation which is demanded of at least during the time of meditation. Without that, no meditation is possible. You must say no to everything in the universe except that one object of meditation. Then meditation becomes. See how powerful it will become. And the way of knowledge, the whole of the universe is dismissed as an appearance. The renunciation in the path of Advaita is the strongest. So this is one key word which will boost, energize, empower our spiritual practices. Sri Ramakrishna says the difference between this, between real practice and just drifting along is, he says, the three drunkards, story of the three drunkards, who after a night of revelry, they wanted to go home, they had to cross the river. And they go through the boat and they start rowing and rowing and rowing. And sun rises, they're still in the same place. They forgot to untie the boat. So they have to untie the boat. Now, untying the boat is renunciation.
Right. Just a quick side note, that the live stream is going on the Roots Movement YouTube channel. So if anyone needs to know that, you can definitely go there to the YouTube channel and go on the live stream. One of the things you said actually points us to the next question that I had for you. The idea of detachment, right? And it's a common theme and a common answer that we do get, and I love the way you broke it down into those three levels for us. Whether that be, and I know you're familiar with these names that we've had previously, Dr. Edwin Bryant, when I've asked him about devotion, he's spoken about detachment. When I've asked Sri M about, the Kriya practice, he's spoken about detachment. Whether it be a Buddhist or a Christian, it's been, detachment has been the core. Sometimes that's, again, when it comes to a seeker and a beginner, especially on that path, I could speak for myself, and maybe many would agree, that sometimes you feel like you are acting from a place of Vedanta or detachment. right? That, oh, I don't have expectations when I'm loving this person. You know, when I did this for this person, this loved one, I did it without expectations. And you're sure when you did that, you might have done it intentionally too, that I'm doing it as my devotion. But when, again, reality hits you and you realize that maybe that individual or that thing did not work out, or in fact they insulted me back, then you realize, how can they do that for me? I did this for them. And that, later do you realize that in your back of your mind, in your subconscious, in one of your koshas, you had the imprint of that attachment was placed. What is a practice that maybe you've built into yourself that you would suggest to us to ensure, kind of like when you review your exam paper one more time, that review of recognizing that I'm actually detached when I'm saying I'm detached?
Okay, good question. Don't review. Why? Because the secret here is, when I say I am acting without attachment, I am detached, I have dispassion, I have renunciation, I don't want anything back. I am serving just because the divine is present in you, I don't want anything back. I do want stuff back, even if I don't admit it to myself. It's the way the mind is conditioned. It will not change so fast. This decision to be detached, decision to renounce, decision for non-attachment, it's an intellectual decision.
Right.
Our subconscious doesn't care about it. It will say that you decide whatever you like. I am going to remain attached. You say I have no expectations. Well, I have plenty of expectations.
Right.
Now you know this. And so it's not important to have no expectations or no, it is important to have the intention. This will change over time. Otherwise you'll get nasty surprises. So for example, I heard this from a very senior monk, about a very senior monk, who was talking about non-acceptance of gifts. This is one of the practices in yoga. But say, what's wrong in giving gifts and accepting gifts? It's a common practice. But for a meditator, what happens is, the idea of ownership means your mind gets scattered. Your mind goes out to those objects. The idea of obligation means your mind gets scattered. See how it works. So this senior monk was there, it's a true story, and a devotee came, this very well-meaning gentleman, and he saw this old monk and he needed a cane to walk on. He had got an expensive cane and offered it. Swami, will you please accept this? Will you please accept this? The Swami said, no, I have a cane, I don't need this. So will you please accept this? No. And then the gentleman said, well, I don't want anything from you. He realized what the psychology of the Swami. I really don't want anything from you. I just would be happy if you just take it. Do whatever you like, just take it. I don't want anything in return. And the Swami said, really? Yes, I don't want anything in return. Then let me snap it right now in front of you. And that person looked shocked. You see, it's very natural. You say, how is it? It's very natural. That why would you want somebody to destroy a gift you have just given them? That kind of expectation is natural. Don't struggle with it. Much more important is the intention. That I don't want to do anything. I don't want anything back from you. This is my intention. My subconscious mind might still have. See, renunciation. I renounce all desires in the world. Have I? Not at all. The desires are deeply ingrained patterns of behavior, of liking, wanting and fulfillment. There are patterns in the mind. Just by saying something, even thinking it, even making a decision, will not change those patterns.
Right.
But what will change is, once I have the intention, this is my practice. As I practice, I'll keep running up against my expectations. I'll keep, my subconscious mind will keep throwing up desires, expectations. Then I have to struggle at that moment. I have to carry on with my karma yoga in spite of being insulted, in spite of being disappointed, in spite of it all being very hard. I want to focus in meditation. Right now, absorbed in samadhi. Within seconds, the mind starts jumping around like a monkey. Well, all right, now I have to do the hard work of bringing the mind back again and again and again to your mantra, to your deity, to the breath, whatever it is. That's the hard work of it. But the intention is very important. People make a mistake. I discovered that I am not detached. I have so many attachments. So what do you do now? Give up karma yoga and be attached now. No. No. All change requires you to be a little bit of a hypocrite. Yes, you must pretend to be what you are not in order to become what you must be. Yeah. So all practice is like that. Every practice, not just spiritual practice. Your games, studies, everywhere you have to push beyond what you are.
Wow. I know I could keep going, but I know a lot of people here would love to ask you questions as well. So I always say this, and it might sound kind of crazy, but technically we only wanted to ask you one question. But I felt like we needed to ask you a journey of questions to get to this one question, which is the theme of this podcast, which is the philosophy of now. And I've heard a lecture of yours earlier where you speak about mantras, and you said make mantras your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
When you have so many other thoughts, and of course you can speak on that again, but you have so many thoughts. Instead of that thought, how much more powerful is that mantra to hold on to? And that is the beauty of mantras, and that is the beauty of what we try to speak about in this podcast, is when we gain these mantras from these wise men and these wise people, we hold on to them, and we can go back to them when we need them in our daily lives. We call it the philosophy of now because it's that life philosophy that keeps you in the present moment, and not waver in the past or in the future, but in the present, in the now. So what is your philosophy of now, or your life mantra that keeps you in the present, that you would love to share with us?
A very beautiful question. I saw this cartoon where a person is constantly slipping on a banana peel, either falling backwards or falling forwards, face planting into the concrete. So this is you see it in the slapstick movies, But it's true, we are doing it all the time.
Right.
Either we're slipping back into time or falling forward into the future. Slipping back into nostalgia, how good those were the days. They went. It's an illusion set up by the mind. And it's the worst possible use of your time to revel in that nostalgia. For a moment you might, but then move ahead. It's gone. Those are ghosts. They do not exist anywhere except as a story in your mind. And all looking back with regret. Not those were the days. Why were those days there? And the other way is looking forward into the future with expectation. Something nice is going to happen. Something nice is going to happen. Let me disillusion you. Nothing is going to happen. Because even when the best of things happens and you do feel happy, you do really feel happy, and you remember it, like the peak experiences, they are gone. And when they are gone, they are not very satisfactory anymore.
Right.
You're glad you had them, but it's not the end of the journey. It's not that I've had that amazing experience. I achieved that amazing thing. Now I don't want anything more in life. Now life can be whatever it is. I'm fine. My life is over now. That is not a good feeling at all.
Right.
So that never happens. Or people, even worse, look forward with anxiety, fear, and tension, even terror into what the future holds for them. So I love that teaching, that saying. I've repeated it many times. Whatever is behind us and whatever is yet in front of us is as nothing compared to what is within us. It's nothing. We are either looking back in life, if you're old, if you're young, you're looking forward in life. Both are deluded. What you should be looking at is already something present, right now, the now. In the now, what appeals to me is this now itself, the reality here itself. The reality here itself, to catch hold of the reality, Atman, Brahman, pure consciousness, God, whatever word you want to use, that is right here, right now, and that is you. In which sense is it you? It is this awareness which I pointed to at the beginning of the guided meditation. This consciousness, this awareness, this sense of presence of our own being, it's always there. And for the awareness, it's always the now. For the mind, it is past, it is future, and with an effort, it can be now. But for the awareness, it's always now. If you look at bare awareness, you look at yourself. Suppose you're not seeing anything, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching anything. The world has disappeared into a blank. Suppose you're not feeling, either very happy or very unhappy, sort of neutral. Suppose you're not remembering anything, not even your own name. Suppose you're not thinking anything, no thought. Suppose you're not trying to, no memory. All of it is gone, just bare awareness presence. That bare awareness presence, what does it want? What is it waiting for? Nothing. All waiting expectation comes when the mind kicks in.
Right.
By yourself, you are not waiting for anything. You don't even want anything. What's it against? Who is it afraid of? Nothing. It's only when the world is brought to you by the mind, the mind sets up a story, and then the awareness in connection with the mind feels, I want that, I'm afraid of that, I'm against this person or this political party or this religion, I am for that. This is my story. None of it is true. It's a story set up by the mind, and that's the job of the mind. But we must be careful of it. So now, this awareness, this consciousness, it's present right now. It's shining forth in all the things that we see, in all the things that we hear. Every experience we are having is pointing back towards that light which is giving us all these experiences. That light is always available. It's available without practice. It's available without effort. It's in fact choiceless. It can never be not available. You can't choose not to have it. Only thing is possible that we may not attend to it. The mind may not attend to it.
Right.
The mind is generally busy with the world, busy with the stories. What is the best things in life are always freely available and all the time available and universal. Air, sunlight, whatever it is. Life. More than life, more than air, sunlight, more than all of that is consciousness, awareness, your own existence. Always freely available, choicelessly available, problem-free available, and source of limitless strength and support. So that is the now. And it's ever the now. We can choose not to look at it, or you can choose to look at it. You choose to look at it, you will immediately be strengthened, you will immediately feel better. The mind itself draws sustenance from that.
Mm.
You immediately feel at peace, more able to do whatever you're supposed to do, and more feeling it's alright. That's the now. Second practice, of course, would be mantra, as you said.
Mm.
Something which is, not this ultimate consciousness, Atman, Brahman, that's very esoteric, and give me something practical right now. I don't understand that, what you're talking about. Beyond body, beyond mind, pure consciousness. Alright. Then catch hold of something that is more or less present. That's why one good anchor is the breath.
Right.
What will bring you to the now is what's there now. And what was there earlier, what will always be there now. In future also, all the now you'll be either breathing in or breathing out, or between breaths.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if one is not doing that, then one doesn't need any kind of practice at all. One is beyond practice. So if you're breathing, breath is available. It's an anchor which can bring you back to the now. Another one would be the mantra. So the breath is pretty neutral. It is pretty contentless. That's an advantage, but disadvantage also. Mantra is very rich.
Right.
It stands, in brief, it stands for a whole metaphysical, spiritual system. It evokes ideas, it evokes feelings, devotion, adoration. It evokes strength, peace. So mantra is a whole ancient lineage tradition compressed into a little phrase also.
Right.
It is also connected to the transcendent. Call it God, the way, the divine, Buddha nature, whatever you call it, it's connected.
Right.
It is also speech. Language has a way of trapping us in the world. But the same language, there is a divine language which frees us from the world. The medicine must be according to the disease. If language is part of the disease, medicine must also be language based.
Wow.
Mantra is the divine language. So that's another very powerful way of bringing yourself back to the now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Again, speaking on the fact that I'm representing you guys usually, and this time around we have the opportunity for any of you to ask questions. I will allow, you can definitely raise your hand and come up. We'll give you the mic, and you can ask your question here. Please say your name and then ask the question. And Swamiji, if you're open to choosing who to pick.
Just raise your hand.
Yeah.
Come up here. Yes, come. Please come. Good to see you. It's a very interesting character himself. Now I won't say anything.
philosophical one, I know there's a lot of practical things. So you mentioned about Kant and you did that initial meditation. My question is this. So Kant talks about the noumenon, the thing in itself, as opposed to phenomenon in what sort of we perceive. And there's this idea of nirguna, like the consciousness. So is it the same thing? And do we have to, even with the meditation, reach that awareness of that consciousness through the phenomenon, right? Or can we just, or is it something that, how can we reach consciousness that pure, like nirguna? Do we need the support of the phenomenon?
Yeah. Kant, again, broadly speaking, all of what I say is, I'm not a Kant scholar. And I know Kant scholars who spent decades studying Kant in the original German. They can actually, spew the original German of Kant's writing. So, whatever I say might be entirely wrong. But the general idea I get is, according to Kant, you cannot reach the thing in itself, the noumenon. So he's got it right from the Advaitic perspective, but then he stops there. And he says, phenomena are all we can know. And the noumenon is unreachable. The noumenon is there in the objective world and in ourselves also, but it's unreachable by us, you cannot know it. That's where spirituality starts. Advaita Vedanta starts there. And in fact, not just Advaita Vedanta, in one sense, all the mystical traditions of the world started. They say, yes, it can be known. Now, in the Advaitic framework, what gives you the confidence it can be known? Because, first, most important, that noumenon you are. If it's an unknown thing which you are not, then to know it you need some way of knowing it. And all the ways are phenomenal. And so the noumenon is beyond the phenomenon. Therefore there's a logical contradiction in saying that the phenomenon will take you to the noumenon. No, it won't. But if you are that noumenon, according to Advaita Vedanta central teaching, Tattvamasi, you are that. If you are that noumenon, number one. Second, that noumenon is self-luminous. That shining, everything else shines. This is Upanishads. By its light, everything here is lit up. You shining, everything else shines. By your light, everything is lit up. So in a certain way, quote unquote, you can know yourself. Not as an object, not through phenomena, but Sri Ramakrishna put it in Bengali, Bodhe Bodh Kara. The closest you get is awareness. Being aware of awareness, in awareness. Is the closest. What makes it possible? The fact that you are that, first of all, and it's a luminous you, self-revealed. Doesn't need a phenomenon to reveal it. Now all sadhana, I'm adding footnote, all sadhana, all spiritual practices, including our Vedanta, they all depend on the phenomenon. And you need it. Why do you need it? If the phenomenon cannot reach the noumenon is forever beyond the phenomenon, then what can anything do based on the phenomenon do? Just prima facie. Vedanta is very interesting. Vedanta says you are right. Therefore, all spiritual practice has only a negative purpose. It will not get you to the reality. You are the reality itself. You don't need to reach yourself. But what it can do is, it can remove the obstructions at the phenomenal level. So, phenomenal practices can remove obstructions at the phenomenal level. The noumenon is self-revealed. It's like the sun shining. There's a patch of cloud which obscures the sun. Tiny patch of cloud. And the sun is vast, vaster than the world itself, the earth itself. But a tiny patch of cloud can obscure it for us. A gust of wind comes and removes the cloud. The entire thing took place in the atmosphere. A gust of wind and the cloud. It has nothing to do with the sun. But because of this action, the sun is now clear, shining forth. That's an example. Here in place of the sun, you are that. Yeah. So all activity takes place at the phenomenal level, but it helps to reveal the noumenon. If the phenomenal problem obscured the noumenon, then the phenomenal solution will reveal the noumenon. Obscuration and revelation both are level of phenomenon, not at the level of noumenon. Nearly 2000 years ago, a master philosopher and logician, who was traditionally entirely our ancient enemy, Nagarjuna, the master of emptiness, Shunyavada, in his root verses of the middle way, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, he has this thing, that the Buddha has taught two kinds of truths, the relative truth and the ultimate truth. He says Samritti Satyam, Paramartha Satyam. And then he says Samritti Manashritya Paramartham Nadigamyate. Without taking refuge in the relative truth, one never attains to the ultimate truth. In Kant's terms, phenomenon to noumenon. In Advaitic terms, Vyavaharika to Paramarthika. Thank you. Yes. Namaste.
My name is Bhumik,
Yes.
and I had a question regarding what you had spoken earlier about Karma Yoga, about spiritualizing action.
Yes.
So, Sri Ramakrishna has said that Shiva Gnane Jiva Seva.
Yes.
And I understand that currently, even though I am unable to see divinity in other beings, through consistent service of others, I'm gradually getting to the point where I can see that in creation. So my question is, while doing service, it is often said to work without attachment or concern with the results of your service.
Yes.
I have a hard time understanding this concept because I'm nowhere near the stage of those great people who act out of selfless compassion. And also currently the main pull for me to do any social service is out of a strong desire to uplift society and those around me. So if I'm supposed to be unconcerned with the results and unattached to the outcome, then what would drive me to tirelessly work and put in my best?
Yeah. So, first of all, what would drive you? One way would be, like we said, Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva is serve all beings knowing them to be Shiva, to the divine. And then you say that I don't know it to be, know them to be Shiva. Then take a step, one step below that is Shiva Bhave. Develop an attitude in inwardly that my beloved Shiva is present there. Do you know it? No. Do you believe it? Do you feel it? Yeah, it's a feeling. You might say, even that is not there. I don't feel that. I just feel that's just a guy, just a homeless guy. I don't feel that God is in that guy. Then alright, Shiva Vishwase Jiva Seva. These are many. Sri Ramakrishna never said these things. So, in the belief that God is there, I don't feel it yet. Certainly I don't know it, I'm not enlightened. But I just believe it because it's a teaching given by a great spiritual master. It is in full consonance with Vedanta, with Bhagavatam, for example. So I do it. So that's one reason why I would do it. Why am I doing it? Because I believe God is there. Another reason why I would do it. So Swami Vivekananda says, unselfishness is more paying. Unselfishness is more paying. It just takes more maturity to understand that. Doing stuff for others without any expectation. And I don't know, expectation means not that now I will have no expectation, not like that. I just don't. But then why do you do it? I like doing it. It makes me happy. It gives me great joy. There was this psychology experiment, a professor, experiment on altruism. So this actually happened. The professor in his class, psychology class, in the psych class, he said, today we are not going to have a class, we are all going out to see this movie, a popular movie. So they went out and they were very happy, they came back. But this being a psych class, he gave them a survey afterwards. And you rate your joy, your fulfillment, your satisfaction in seeing this movie, rated from 1 to 5. 1 not at all, 5 very satisfied. And they rated it, 3 or 4 or 5 something. Next week again he said, no class. Today we are going out to that part of the town and we have set up like in a shelter for kids and we are going to take them presents, toys and clothes and all, and we're going to spend the afternoon playing with them, making friends with them. And they did that. And they came back. Rate your happiness to the activity 1 to 5. And they rated it something, 4 or 5 something. 6 months later, the professor suddenly said in class, I want you to look back upon that 6 months ago. We all went to see a movie. How much happiness does it give you right now? When you think about that movie, how happy do you feel that you saw that movie 6 months ago in 1 to 5? Some of them couldn't recall the name of the movie. Others said, yeah, I know we went to see it, but right now I don't feel anything. Right now, if you say, at that time I must have felt, right now I feel 1 or 2, nothing. Now, he says, think back upon that time when you spend an afternoon giving gifts and making friends and making the children happy. Right now, when you think about it, how much happiness is it giving you when you think about it right now? When I think about it right now, 4 or 5, undiminished almost. Now see, altruism, selflessly, not trying to satisfy my desires of pleasure or achievement or power. Selflessly seeing the happiness of others made me happy. Vivekananda says it is counterintuitive. We feel if I do stuff for me, myself, I should be happy. And it does work a little bit at least. But he says doing stuff for others automatically gives you the payoff. So either you do it as a spiritual practice, the worship of God. Many people do that. This is my puja, my worship. As I put flowers in my shrine, I also give food to the hungry, I teach the kids, I mow the lawn for somebody, but all this stuff is my offering to God, present here in this form. Now going back to what you said, most people actually do what you do. So I help out of a desire to uplift society. What's wrong with that? Nothing. You're just going to be very disappointed very soon. You will see that society was not uplifted. It wasn't. I know of people who do tremendous amounts of work, day in, it's a profession, day in and day out, for very sick people in very poor parts of this city. And they after years and years of doing this, they feel defeated. Because it's not changing anything. Not at all. Not even for one person. So you take a person off the streets today, tomorrow is going to go back to the streets, and the after tomorrow is going to die. And you see this again and again and again and again. So, no, you can start off with that idea that I want to make society better, but it will not become better. But what will happen is, we get straightened out. And then a spiritual goal, not a worldly goal, a spiritual goal is more sustaining. Or a simple psychological fact, unselfishness is more sustaining. So these are the reasons. Thank you. Yes, please.
Let's do one, I think one more.
One more? Okay, the lady here, please. Please come. Namaste. Let's have it. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Maharaj and Ramana, I have mailed you.
Oh yes,
But
right,
it's
right.
Maharaj of my
Yes.
Maharaj.
Yes, of course, of course.
Thank you for the opportunity, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question was, what are the material yardsticks for measuring the spiritual maturity?
First is don't measure. No, I'm not saying this to be contrary. I'm saying over time I've realized those who are spiritual practitioners over the years, they have made up their mind to be on the path regardless. If my metrics, my performance, my quarterly review is not good, am I going to resign and walk off in a huff? No. God is very kind. He's not going to fire me, even if my performance is not good. I'm hired for life and lifetime after lifetime. I'm hired through life and death and other lives also. This is the only job God has hired me for spirituality. So God is never going to fire me. I shouldn't quit. So therefore, the first thing should be, regardless of my progress or lack of progress, I'm going to stick to this.
Perseverance.
Perseverance, but perseverance is sort of a dry word. Oh, I must persevere with a long face. What are you doing in persevering? No, persevering is important. It is really central. If you can persevere, then success is guaranteed. There is an American definition of who is a big shot. It's a little shot who keeps shooting. So perseverance is the secret to any achievement, and especially spiritual life, no doubt about it. But the thing is, I will stick to it because I like it. When do I keep looking for results? When I feel I'm not getting results. Then I keep examining. When does the child pull up the sapling the child is planted? When does he or she pull it up? When she feels it's not growing. Is it taking root? No. Don't pull it up to check whether the roots are going in or not. You kill it. So, my practical advice would be, there are many ways of checking spiritual progress, by the way. Many ways. I'll tell you one, but I'll tell you two. But my practical advice would be from my own experience and seeing sadhakas, spiritual practitioners, all my life I've been seeing them. Over time, it's not an important question for them. Am I making progress or not? They are very aware of whether they're making progress or not. But even if they did not make progress, they would still stick to it. Because Every day in spiritual life, every day that I meditate, I study the scripture, I worship my God, I pray, I serve, I'm getting meaning in my life, I'm getting some fulfillment in my life. I feel that more integration of personality with progress is happening. As I practice, I will get. Now, if you still want to check metrics, Sri Ramakrishna gave a very simple metric. Ishwarya Anurag Vishaya Virag. More and more pull towards God and more and more detachment from Vairagya for the world. Earlier I had many big problems. Yes, I'm practicing spirituality, but my son doesn't listen to me and my health is not good and my neighbor is very irritating. Now I am practicing spirituality and my questions, my issues are all spiritual. What the others are doing is secondary. I'll deal with it, it doesn't matter. It's not essential. Earlier those were essential and I was complaining why my spiritual practices are not solving those problems. Now those problems will still continue, but I am not interested in that anymore. That is the Vishaya Virag. Virag means Vairagya. And pull towards spirituality. Just detachment, just renunciation leads to depression. A genuine positive pull in life. I am here for something nice, wonderful. I always look at the president of our order now, Revered Swami Gautamanand Maharaj. He is 96 years old.
Yes,
And you've seen him?
yes, Maharaj. Last year, Pasvaguri Ashram.
Yes. The first thing you notice, he's 96 years old. How bright he is. How joyful he is. How can a person who doesn't have money in the world, doesn't have family in the world, he doesn't have
And still traveling.
no property in the world, this monk, 96 years old man, full of joy and inspiring tens of thousands of people, day in and day out, tirelessly. We feel tired. He's 96, twice our age, he doesn't feel tired. How? Now, what joy is he getting? Because of that joy. Practical way, one Swamiji put it, that one thing is our negativities, the frequency should be less, intensity should be less, and recovery time should be less.
Frequency?
Intensity, recovery time. That's one Swamiji said. So frequency means, suppose anger is my problem. Now I used to fly into a rage, I used to get angry every few days. But now, once in a month, once in 6 months, so frequency has come down. That's progress.
FIR.
FIR. The intensity. This is Paramarthananda Swami in Chennai, he said it. So the intensity. Earlier I used to fly into a rage. But now, it's a little flash of irritation. Progress. Recovery time. Earlier I used to be angry and I would go on being angry. Lifelong anger. At least day after day of justified anger against that fellow. Now in the morning I'm angry, evening I'm forgotten. Now this moment I'm angry, next moment forgotten. There's a saying, Sadhu Rag Jale Tag in Bengali. The anger of a monk, and monks also get angry. There's a difference. The anger of a monk is like a line drawn in flowing water. So that's a learning we can take. Line drawn in flowing water. What is the flowing water? The river of the mind. It's flowing water. And the anger comes, it's like a line draw. As you draw a line in flowing water, it disappears. You can see an outline of a line. It's immediately disappearing. Similarly, anger will go away. Depression will go away. All negativities go away. The positivities are underneath, always shining forth. Very good. Thank you.
I'm going to stand right now. But what we'll do right now is, I know we're just a little over time, but what we want to try to do, something a little different with this sort of talk, is that it's not, we don't want to keep it just like a 2-hour event that, oh, it was a nice visit and we're going to go back. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten notebooks, and if you haven't, we have a few in the back that we could hand out. You could just raise your hand. We just want to take a couple of minutes to reflect on what we've learned. I'm sure there were so many different things that were said. We have a couple of sort of questions here that we just posed. What particular ideas inspired you? What can we take away as practices in our daily life? And how can we spend more time to be more contemplative? Something we could take back in our practice, and just thinking of this as a sanctuary for ourselves that we can come back to and reflect on. So even use these notebooks as your little journals of reflections, and if you feel like just drawing it out instead of writing it down, feel free to do that. But we'll take a couple of minutes to do that. That's okay.
One thing I'm taking away from that is roots. I didn't know the meaning of that. It's very well coined. Realize your own true self, our own true self. Realize our own true self. Every word of it is what meditating upon. Realize. What meditating upon? What does it mean? Realize. Then our. So it's not directed outwards. Many people, when they become interested in spirituality, they first of all seek to impose it on others, especially moms on children. Then own, it means self. What we are looking for is not something other than us. It's right here. And then true, self. So true, that means, is what meditating upon. That means we all know, I am here, so what's the big deal? Do we know the truth about ourselves? That's what Vedanta claims, that we don't know the truth about ourselves. And the self. Journey from the smallest self to capital S self.
Take one more minute. And I'm sure we can just go back here. Feel free to just, if you have it on your notepads as well, the barcodes. We have if you want to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our newsletter. We have a monthly newsletter where we kind of reflect on these thoughts, as well as upcoming events and workshops that we do both in the education space as well as the media space. So, as well as the fact that we have other episodes, but this one will be coming out soon as well. So if you want to share that with your loved ones and your friends, we'll keep you posted on that there. But yeah, with that, we will conclude today's podcast. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you. Big hand.
And just a little token, a little gift. We wanted to give you a little book.
What's it?
It's a book that we.
First thing they taught me when I came from India, the United States, people give gifts. Swami, you have to open it in front of everybody. In India, we do the opposite. We take it home and then we open it up.
I could open that.
So you have to quickly unpack it.
Well, that's the notepad.
This is the roots notepad.
Yeah.
Thank you. Realizing our own true selves. Wonderful. The light that leads. Beautiful. The lectures of archaeology.
Yeah.
Archaeology. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Can you announce the book again? Somebody asked.
What is that book?
Oh, I'll show you. It's the light that leads.
It's a collection of lectures by Pandurang Shastri Athavale. So, in English, we gave it to Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Swamiji, for your time, guidance, and connection. I'm sure, like us sitting here, people on the live stream left or are going to leave with some ideas to ponder and some things to reflect upon. But foremost, I want all of us to be grateful to ourselves in our attempt of being present. Swamiji spoke a lot about what it means to be here in the now, not in the past, not in the future. Feel free to connect with us personally through the barcode. Human contact and seeing each other with our eyes is the best form of communication. But virtual, a phone call, email, we're always willing to collaborate with you in whatever community you're living in. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, and please share this link. Much love to all of you and safe travels.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for putting it together and having us.
Absolutely.